So I went on a little bike ride around Rockliffe Smythe, check out how the roads and the cycling infrastructure have, been holding up after this recent 20-centimeter snow dump that we got. So the snow and ice saga continues. The 311 saga continues. It's always an adventure. Of course, I'm on the driving space on Scarlet because the Humber River Trail is not transportation infrastructure, so it doesn't get always cleared during the winter. But, we still use it as an excuse to not build on-road facilities, so this is why the Scarlet lanes only go up to here. And that's the Scarlet cycle track. So, I mean, they said, as soon as we get 2 centimeters of snow in the cycling facilities, we will clear them. But maybe that just means the cycling facilities downtown, maybe the suburbs are not part of that plan. So yeah, I didn't bother trying to go north through the rest of Scarlet. At this point it would be better if the cycle tracks weren't there, because then I would have a curb lane to use on it, and the drivers would have another lane to use to pass me. Of course, only 9 out of 10 of them are willing to do that. The remaining 1 out of 10, they enjoy hazing the cyclists, so it doesn't really work one way or the other. The cycle tracks are great, I mean, if they get maintained. Side street routes are pretty awesome. So, here I am cycling through Rockliffe Smythe. Beautiful day. It was pretty warm, but I don't know. It was actually too warm. I should have worn less clothing. This is me on my kick-ass road bike. Side street cycling, no problem. I'll just cross over Jane here. Very easy, no need for a cyclist refuge island or pedestrian refuge island or whatever. To the right here is where most pedestrians cross Jane. There is, of course, a crosswalk further to the south, and practically nobody uses it because it's so sketchy. Because of, drivers just deliberately failing to yield to pedestrians when they fly around it. Everybody tells pedestrians, look both ways, watch out, be careful, and all that does is train the drivers to fail to yield. Really, it's sad that in downtown Toronto, in order to actually use their right-of-way, pedestrians have to make sure not to look at the drivers, because looking at somebody is the indication that you are yielding to them. And, I mean, it's not really, but that's how it turns out. It's so stupid. Just rocking some drone bass here on my little battery-powered Bluetooth speaker. I love it. Here I am at Alliance, next to Rockliffe. We get onto Rockliffe, and there's this little industrial spot where sort of this little road that I use to do donuts and stuff, have some fun. This is where for a while they had speed cameras, and while they had speed cameras here, it actually succeeded in slowing the drivers down. And then they took them out, and now everybody does 40 again and whatever. So I got a driver tailgating me right now. Don't worry, I did know that there was nobody at this corner before turning. This camera is mounted super low, so you can't really see that, but it was safe. Got my own little active TO space here next to the Senso facility where you can go and get your salt, your dirt, all sorts of cool stuff. And of course we could have a cycling path going east-west through this area. But, you know, we don't. Just love doing some slalom up in here. Boatload of fun. Road bikes are fast. I mean, this looks really rough because my camera's on this, like, bouncy thing that, you know, is slamming around, but just take my word for it, this is a really, really smooth ride where I'm actually sitting. So anyway, check it out. They maintained this this multi-use path on the west side of Rockliffe really, really well, and they've done so all winter long. It's awesome. This is a type of infrastructure that in the Ward 5, it used to be Ward 11, but is now Ward 5 Pedestrian Safety and Cycling Committee. We were looking at this for a few different places, like why not just put a multi-use path where a sidewalk would be on the side of some of these roads. I think it's a great solution. This is the Black Creek Site West path, and they've sort of been doing a good job of maintaining it through the winter. And it's awesome for going east-west through here because some of these roads, you know, the drivers freak out a little bit if they are following you up a hill and they realize they got the opportunity to haze you. They just can't pass it up. The 1 in 10 crazies, you know. But this path is great. I mean, you know, I got road bike wheels, but whatever. At least they got the hill part absolutely right. This hill, this little hill section, this is where, at times, it is completely encrusted with dog shit. And I just can't explain what the issue is. They really need to put like a garbage bag or garbage can around here somewhere and some bags. So check it out. I screwed up while crossing J and failed to yield to this driver over here who was turning left. It wasn't really a big deal. It wasn't really a close call, but I did wave at them in thanks. And continued east through this lovely neighborhood. Side streets are all good. And so I decided, okay, I am going to check out Scarlet going northbound, and if I've got a bike with the drivers, I'll just go ahead and do that. Because going northbound, it's a hill, so I can pretty easily do 40, and I figured the road would be well maintained, and you know, if it wasn't, I would be able to see it. And worst comes to worst, I could just walk on the sidewalk, which is like a half a meter wide, but you know. So yeah, I got to Scarlet, and you know, sometimes the Scarlet cycle tracks are perfect in one spot and terrible in another spot. But this time, you know, they just didn't do any of it. So yeah, so here we go. So I'm waiting to use Scarlet. And waiting. And here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh my gosh, I gotta go so fast. Listen, see, vehicular cycling. It's so great, it works so well. You know, you can share the road with drivers who are doing 50. No problem. Of course, I will take whatever opportunity to pull over and quote-unquote release them. It's a good thing I got good brakes. I replaced my brake pads with these kick-ass, but they're called Cool Stop, and they are so good. That's a good thing. Otherwise, this vehicular cycling thing would not be working out so well. So no problem, you know, just wait for the driving traffic to clear, no big deal. Just wait a little bit longer. It's not a huge problem. Of course, they do have this middle lane that they could I guess maybe pass me, but I don't even know if they're allowed to use it to pass, and they probably don't know either, but just wait for it to... Oh, maybe I'm waiting unnecessarily. This other cyclist is not waiting. It's just seems to be working for them. Yeah. So I finally got my chance. So here I go. No need for cycle tracks on here. See, check it out. You can totally do this. No problem. This is what cycling on Scarlet used to be like all the time. Except, of course, they had another lane to pass, but of course they would occasionally haze you anyway. Oh, good thing I waited for all these people. So here we go. Oops, no real effort to clear the Scarlet cycle tracks. Well, that's no big deal. I'll just make a 311 call and they'll deal with it. Sometimes I think they just... Like, this is kind of a dark thought, but I can't help but think, okay. They wait for somebody to make a request, and then because somebody's made a request, then they have another 2 days to not do anything before they actually fill the request. Then when they fill the request, they can screw it up, and then you have to call in a dispute/complaint with photos, and then they get another 2 days to fix it. And so, like, basically through this whole process, they can just kind of like accidentally on purpose keep some very essential spot from being usable for like a week at a time. And if you can do this a few times a year during winter, then, and it's unpredictable, and there's no real way to find out whether something is usable unless you personally go there yourself or get some report from some other cyclist, then the result is like people just don't bother cycling in the winter. But I do. Because I can do this when I really need to. Of course, it's still sketchy as hell. I mean, that's because I'm not confident and assertive enough to freely and safely use these arterial curb lanes as effectively as our vehicular cyclists do, and they report tremendous success. And we have maybe 3 suburban vehicular cyclists that I've encountered on Facebook, and they claim that these arterials are excellent cycling routes without any infrastructure. And you know, I'm not demanding that every single person have a GoPro on their bike, but I would love to see some video evidence of their claims. You know, that would be cool. Just to sort of, because I'm kind of skeptical. I think a lot of people are kind of skeptical. But, I mean, if only 1 in 50 cyclists has a camera on their bike, and we only have, like, 3 suburban vehicular cyclists in this whole area, then I guess I'm asking too much. So this is the Humber Trail, and after the big snow dump a month and a half ago, they did plow it, and they put down these little sort of pea gravel, which made it rideable. And it was pretty cool. This time, it seems like they sort of got it halfway, and maybe they'll give it another pass, but it's not really traversable. But, you know, I did make it to Eglinton with a little bit of... I would call this a cyclist portage. Right, you know, it's a good thing, like, I can just barely pick up my bicycle with it loaded down with stuff. I had all this extra clothing packed on my bike, and of course I got all my tools. But the clothing was absolutely unnecessary. This was so hot. I actually ended up taking my jacket off. So after the big snow dump, they cleared the Eglinton path west of the Humber. They cleared the Eglinton path east of the Humber from the Humber to Jane Street, like the cycling space. But they didn't clear this spot, and they didn't clear the spot that the brand new stuff just like east of Jane. This guy's telling me like, it's okay, man, you can bike on the sidewalk. I'm like, yeah, I know I will. After you pass by, it's all good. But anyway, so they basically they cleared the cycling space from the east side of the Humber to Jane, and then left it impossible to get to it from the east or the west. So, I mean, using the stuff that they built, even without the Eglinton stuff that goes like all along Eglinton now, which is still closed, using these other routes, you can get all the way from like Mississauga to the K. Gardner Beltline Trail, but not in the winter because they've just made sure to kind of accidentally on purpose make this spot and this one other spot full of snow. I don't get it. So here I am cycling on the sidewalk across the Humber River. That's just awesome. And it's a good thing these sidewalks are wide enough for one person to walk past another person, or even walk their bicycle past another person, because that's the law. So here it is. It's just a mystery. Both times, after the big snow dump and then after this recent snow dump, they have plowed both the sidewalk, the walking space, and the cycling space going through the west side of Eglinton Flats. And then there's no way that you can actually bike to it without using the sidewalk. Like, okay. So this is this pedestrian, the cycling space, so I'm like, alright, well, I guess we'll just switch places. So here I'm passing by the golf course, and I notice they plowed the entrance to the golf course. Now, what could they possibly be using the golf course for in the middle of winter? Maybe they plowed all the golf course paths for recreational cycling and walking? So yeah, you can bike to Jane from the east side of the Humber River, but you can't continue because this brand new cycling path and sidewalk that goes all the way to Pier Park hasn't been plowed. They didn't do it this time. They didn't do it last time. I don't get it. So I turned back. And here on my way back, I was curious, like, what could they possibly be doing on this golf course that they would plow this road to get to it? And then you can't see it on camera, but I see this cross-country skier. And so at the Scarlet, what is it called? Scarlet Mills or Scarlet Woods golf course? It's this public golf course, and they are using it for wintertime cross-country skiing, which is so cool. A long time ago at one of the committee meetings, I actually mentioned to like the Liberal member of Parliament. I don't know whether it was federal Parliament or provincial Parliament, but I was talking with her about, we were talking about random stuff, and I was saying we would have some great cross-country skiing opportunities in the ravine paths and stuff like that. And she said, you really think people would be interested in doing that? I said, oh, absolutely. And so we haven't really done it on the ravine paths network, but I'm so glad to see that they have opened up this golf course for doing this, because that is so cool. And there's even this little sign here about maintaining the tracks, the cross-country ski tracks. So I had no idea about this, and I pay attention to this stuff. So if you're into cross-country skiing, you got to check this out. This is so cool. I figured, maybe they have maintained the paths, but no, it's just enough to get up to here. Now, if they had maintained these golf course paths, I could actually use these to go to my favorite spot on the edge of the Humber River, and enjoy the scenery and have a nice little break and whatever, but they didn't, so no big deal. I figure I'll just take Emmett, the 2-lane medium speed road that goes north from Eglinton. It's no problem because I'm a very fast, accomplished vehicular cyclist. And, doing this, each time I do this, it's not like it fills me with terror or anything. It's not like I've ever had any bad experiences with any of the drivers here. They're very good and whatever. So I'm feeling good about this. No problem. Not scary at all. It's all good. No big deal. This is one of those places where if they just removed the center line, it would be so much safer. But, I mean, good luck getting a center line removed. When somebody does something and the excuse is safety, but that's not really the reason, and it's not really the outcome, just having safety as an excuse for something that makes something unsafe, it just makes it impossible to change it. It's so funny the way that human beings work. So instead of taking a nice paved path across the golf course, I'm doing another cyclist portage. It's very fun, exhilarating, lots of exercise. Now this would be the ideal spot for a campground. I really think we should have like a bunch of paid camping sites in Toronto, but we don't. So this is the spot I chose to chill out at the Humber, and whoa, look at all these ice chunks. That is truly cool. At one point, I found a whole field of them at the Old Mill area, and the whole valley was full of them. It was really incredible. So I figure, why not just do my 311 call here?
The cycle tracks that I'm talking about are the Scarlet Road cycle tracks. Okay,
that should work. Not a problem. Let's get started. Let's see. Where did it go? Service request. There it is. Winter maintenance. Snow removal. Bike lane.
Just the west side of the Humber River, all the way to just short of St. Clair.
Let's see. Take a look here.
Man, my tongue looks so weird. Why is that?
Scarlet Heights?
It's on Scarlet Road, right? It goes north to south pretty much.
Yeah, north to south on Scarlet Road.
Snow removal. Yes, that is okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's the same location. All along Scarlet. Yes, it's affecting traffic and causing settling.
So we did 2 requests for the same area. One for like the general snow removal, and then another one for the big piles of snow, because they kind of require a separate thing. And it's so complicated. Like I had to say like, well, you're saying bike lane, but I'm saying cycle tracks because they are protected by bollards, so you need one of those narrow plows to plow it, and then you'll need one of those other things to get rid of the big piles of it. And he's like, oh, okay, all right, so it's protected all the way along. I'm like, well, it's not even that simple. There's places where it's a bike lane and there's places where it's a cycle track, and so this 311 call just took forever just to talk about Scarlet.
In some places they've got barriers, in other places they don't. Sometimes when I submit requests for Scarlet, it takes a while, and I show up and it looks like it's been kind of half done, and so sometimes I think that's because they don't get the right idea about what type of stuff to bring, or they need one thing for one part of it and another thing for another part. So I don't know how. I don't know. I hope we're solving the problem.
No, you definitely have a point. what you just described. Like they do work, but the job's not done properly. I want you to take pictures, and then you call us. We will file a dispute or a complaint for the service request not done properly, and then you can have the pictures attached to the new request. Because Scarlet is such a long road, it's very possible that it's different division of transportation that are dealing with the different sections.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Now, you also wanted to mention, what is the other issue?
Okay, the two other spots are both on Eglinton. They're basically in the Eglinton Flats area. The first spot is on the bridge that crosses the Humber on the south side
of... Is this also for the bike lane?
This one is part of a multi-use path.
Okay, so give me a minute. I will create one differently as well. Hopefully then,
This just gets so complicated.
It's on Eglinton. Yeah, on the south side, it's on the bridge. It's separated from the driving space by a set of Jersey barriers, and it's right next to the sidewalk.
Eglinton, and what was the intersection?
This would be east of Scarlet.
I really got to start taking pictures of this stuff because, he ended up thinking that there was cycling facilities on both sides of Eglinton, and the explanation was so complicated, and it's just so next time I'm kind of torn between using their online tool. You can just easily submit photos, but using the phone, you can actually describe the situation better. So it's just, I did the third one, the new piece from Jane to Piran Park.
Is this one separated with barriers or not?
No, it's what we would call, I guess, grade separated. So it's up on.
It's elevated at the sidewalk level?
Yes, yeah.
I'm gonna submit this as well, and I'm gonna give you a new reference number. Just a second.
Thanks.
Okay. So there's two reference number for the one on Scarlet, and it's let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
0060
0060
2826
2826
and the other one ends in 2830.
2830 is the end of the other one? Okay.
Those two are for Scarlet Road.
Okay.
The one for the bike, for the one on Eglinton, on the bridge, is the same number, but it ends in 55.
Ends in, okay, the last two numbers are 55, all right.
Okay, so 55, and then the final one, the same number, but the last two digits are going to be 81.
81, okay.
And done. All right, sir. Anything else I can assist you with?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I really appreciate your help.
They're telling me this will be clear within 48 hours. If you see that it doesn't get done properly, take pictures, give us a call, and ask us to file a complaint or a dispute, and ask them to put the original SR number into the complaint, and then ask instruction how to send pictures.
Thank you so much for telling me about that. Yeah, that really helps.
No worries. Anything else I can help you with?
That's it. Thanks so much.
All right, well, thank you for calling 201 Toronto. You have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
So I've done my due diligence. I have tried to go for a bike ride, sort of did. I have noticed problems, phoned it in, I have learned something, and now it's time to do some off-road winter cycling on my road bike and plan my strategy for getting myself a, a fat bike or something. Yeah. I mean, still, I'm not even doing that badly in this snow. Yeah, time for another little cyclist portage up the hill. Always fun. Just, come on. All right, come on. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Definitely helps to have some energetic music to, I mean, I guess the sidewalk is a viable multi-use path, as long as there's almost nobody using it, which I guess is going to be the result of having to share a space that is too narrow to share. And of course, that's what suburban pedestrians and cyclists are used to. This is what we are trying to change. And this is what the Eglinton infrastructure that's going in is going to succeed in changing. Like, we are finally turning the page on our suburban cycling transportation issues and pedestrian issues. And the next step is Trethewey, which is going to be an awesome cycling route. But like in Mississauga, or I guess this is Etobicoke, but just like after the big snow dump a month and a half ago, they actually cleared this. They cleared the walking space and they cleared the cycling space. So I probably could have gone all the way to Mississauga Creek Trail again. Like, they did an awesome job. You know, this shows whatever they're doing for this spot, if they could just do it for these few spots that I've just made 311 calls about, we'd be laughing.